I'm very welcome again and very delighted to welcome you at the Train the Trainer webinar of EU-funded PROCEDIN project. My name is Valentina Skipa-Shopeyko and I am coordinator of the Urban Agenda Partnership on Innovative and Responsible Public Procurement and is also chair of Eurocities Working Group on Public Procurement. And today I will first of all do an introduction and tell you a bit more about this wonderful project. So what is EU-funded PROCEDIN project is about? It's an PROCEDIN stays for procurement capability, embedding and driving innovation. And the main focus is on procurement of innovation. We also are covering two important domains. This is green mobility, which is very important in all over Europe, and of course, circular economy. So I'm also very proud to share with you the results we did as a PROCEDIN consortium. We collected different existing data and we put it in the resource data bank you can find on our PROCEDIN website. And if you would like that this will be shared, you can also find this recorded webinar, but also other materials on our website. So if, as you see, the resource data bank is divided in different parts and different, let's say, topics. For example, specifically resources for buyers and suppliers. We also have European Education Provision database. Maybe Esme can say just a few words about this part, because Esme is our European education expert.
Yeah, so I will also explain a little bit more during the session, but it's a big database where we try to find as many universities in Europe who do anything which is related to procurement, to business, to sustainability, innovation. And the idea behind it is that either educators can connect or that companies can connect with educators and vice versa. So if you're not on there, then you can also fill out our form on the website and you can be included in there. So it serves as a networking method.
Thank you very much for this extra explanation, Esme. So I continue introducing you to our resource data bank. Another part is about procurement of innovation stakeholders, specifically for this target group. And we also have what you see on the in the middle of the screen on the right side, legal framework and training solutions. As you know, legal information can be sometimes a bit complex and sometimes also difficult to understand. So in order to meet needs of our target group of procurers and everyone who is working with the procurement and seeing procurement as a strategic tool, we developed different training materials, recorded webinars, trainings, and we also updated the legal framework e-learning module, which is free of charge, of course, and open data. So would like to encourage you to take a look at it. And the legal framework of innovation procurement is divided in different innovative procurement procedures, innovative procurement tools, and it's explained using the roadmap, and it helps to understand and to make it less complex and more understandable. We also have project results and outputs. And as May already mentioned it, but it's not only for European education database, but in case you have other interesting resources you would like to share, you can submit a resource using this part, the green part, as you see, submit a resource here on the right side. Okay, so I also would like to introduce you to our wonderful consortium partners. University of Twente is our coordinator of the consortium, and we also have other partners, very dedicated experts. This is Pedal Consulting, F6S, Municipality of Haarlem in the Netherlands, and Municipality of Gabrovo in Bulgaria. As I mentioned, you can find plenty of interesting information, resource database, possibility to join community of procurers using the on the website PROCEDIN.eu. You can also follow us on X, former Twitter, and of course also on LinkedIn. And now I would like to pass word to my colleague Esme, who would like to provide you an interesting session on Train the Trainer. Floor is yours, Esme.
Thank you very much, Valentina. I will share my screen. Can you see it correctly?
Yes.
Perfect. So welcome everyone, and thank you, Valentina, for the introduction of the PROCEDIN project. So as Valentina already explained, we have multiple stakeholders in our project, educators, but are also SMEs and public institutions. Today, it's mostly focused on the educators and how can we advance public procurement and how can we create, how can we create career opportunities in public procurement so that for the future we have more people and more students interested in public procurement. So the agenda for today is that we're first going to talk a bit about public procurement as a career path. So what does that mean? Why would we want it? Who can help us get there? Then a little bit about why we are actually hosting this webinar. Then the most important question to answer is how are we going to do that? And we have two ways for it, both integration of public procurement in courses or a completely new course, or which is closely connected to it, is how to stimulate the career path in public procurement. And then lastly, we do a wrap up where we have a few takeaways, some helpful documents similar to the ones that Valentina already described in the introduction of PROCEDIN, and then there's room for questions and answers. And if anything is not clear in the meantime, you're always allowed to ask in the meantime, so please do. So why would we do this? Who needs to do something, and why should we actually care what's going on? So public procurement is not often considered as a pathway to as a pathway for working for young professionals, specifically if we talk about public procurement, public administration, or if we talk about business management students. So for both of them, it could be a very good pathway, but those are not the ones that we don't see it happening very often, even though public procurement can be very meaningful and pathway for students. And why can it be meaningful? Well, public procurement has a lot of influence in the market and has a lot of economic significance, because public procurement in the Netherlands, for example, is 180 billion a year. And in the EU, it's 12% of Europeans' GDP, and they do in the EU about 2 trillion euros worth of business every single year. So there's a lot going on in the public procurement sector, but it's not a very a career path that's often considered. So who can do something about it and who should do something about it, or who has influence? Well, we think there's a big opportunity for business management and public administration educators to integrate public procurement more into their course materials, or can either be a full course or can be a small part of the course to get more students excited for public procurement. So why do we care about this specifically? Well, we are the University of Twente, so we are one part of the PROCEDIN project. We are the educators part of our project. And in total, in the University of Twente, we have over 30 researchers who are working on procurement, not specifically public procurement, but procurement in a general sense. And we do that together as ELIPS, and ELIPS is the European Lab for Innovative Purchasing and Supply. And with these 30 researchers, we have over 15 courses currently in procurement and in supply chain management, both on master level as well on bachelor's level. We do workshop as well for educators, for people who are already in the workforce. So lots of different target groups. So that's why we thought, let's bundle our forces and try to make something easily accessible for everyone to integrate more public procurement into business or public admin courses. So now coming to the most important question. So how could you actually do that? Well, we differentiate between 4 different things which we think are important. So first of all is integrate public procurement into your course, but also to integrate and highlight the actual impact that public procurement makes. So again, going back to the economic significance and going back to the sustainability and innovation objectives that can be reached with public procurement. Connect with experts, so showing them how public procurement is done in practice, and at the same time, really promote these career opportunities. And to see how we can introduce all of these 4 objectives, we divided into 2 parts. One of them is integrate public procurement into courses, and the other one is stimulating public procurement as a career path. So these are the 2 things that we're focusing on today. So the first section will be about, okay, how do you integrate it in your courses? And the second section will be about different opportunities outside of courses to get students more engaged with public procurement. So first, how to integrate public procurement into course materials. What I already mentioned is there are multiple options for this. So it could be that public procurement is a guest lecture or a small part of a bigger course. It could be that public is a new course on itself. And within our university, we have multiple examples of where public procurement is a course on itself, and we combine these the knowledge of these courses to build one easily accessible course on public procurement. So for that, we'll go into detail about the course structure. And then we also have the course components, which in this case, we mentioned 5 components that could possibly be in a full public procurement course, but it could also be that you pick one of these course components and only put that one into a broader course on purchasing or supply chain management or public administration courses. So first go into detail about the course structure and then more into detail about the course components. So all of this, what we mentioned right here, is also mentioned in one of our reports. So I'll just quickly go over it. And then if you are really interested in making a full course on public procurement, you can easily read back the whole report on how to do it. The report will also be available in a Word document, so you can easily copy and paste the things that you need out of it. But this is just to give an overview of what should actually be in there and what you can think of. So first, it's most important to identify for who the course is actually, who are your target learners. So again, at the University of Twente, we have multiple groups of target learners. It could be a bachelor course, it could be a master course, it could be a course for people already in the workforce. So depending on that, both the hours as well as the prerequisites, the language, if it's online or offline, and the grading might very much differ. In this case, we built this course as an offline course, so course on campus, which is for graduate students or undergraduate students, depending which you can make it a bit more difficult or a bit easier depending on which one you might choose. Well, after identifying how big the course is going to be, who are the target learners, and if the course is going to be offline or online, it's important to identify the learning objectives. And what we did in our document in the proceeding that's available on the proceeding website is we both have learning objectives for the whole course as well as for the specific components. So you can read all of them. And I'll go more into detail about which the learning outcomes related to any of the different components. So after you've set your target audience and the learning objectives, you have the course structure, which is very important. So this again relates to the course components that you want to include. Well, we just provided an example here of what it could look like. So here we focus on 5 course components, which are the concepts, the processes, barriers and enablers, future trends, a possible inclusion of guest lectures or some relation to practice, case study presentations, again, the relation to practice, and in the end, an exam and a paper. And of course, depending on the course outline, you also have a grading composition. So here we chose for 3 different ones, a presentation, a seminar, and a final exam. But of course, you can choose however you would like to do it, but we just wanted to give an example. Then, if you want to do a full public procurement course, there are some other things to consider. Just quickly wanted to mention that. So retake policy, artificial intelligence policy, and academic integrity policy. Again, you can read more about this in our report, but it's good to mention. So as said, if one of the things that we want to talk about is the how to integrate public procurement into a course. So we talked about the course structure, and then specifically we have the course components. So in the course that we designed for proceeding, there are 5 important components of the course. And as I said before, you could either choose to focus on just one or a short introduction of public procurement, but you could also focus on 4 or 5 of them if you're designing a course. But we just want to give this as some examples of how to possibly integrate public procurement into courses. So the things that we focused on are first concepts of public procurement, then the processes of public procurement, the barriers and enablers, future trends, and lastly, impact cases or any relation to practice. So what kind of information could you use for students to learn more about the concept of public procurement? Well, first of all, there is a new book available on public procurement, which is open access. So it's very easy to access and free for everyone. So you could pick and choose certain chapters that are from this book. In this case, we did the introduction in public procurement. Of course, there are also other books available that could be very useful, but we specifically for this example chose this one because it's open access and it's very new. It's from 2023. And as a fun other thing to include would be different videos. So for example, Valentina just mentioned the Urban Agenda Partnership. They also have a video on introducing public procurement and introducing the partnership. We as PROCEDIN have a video on demystifying public procurement. So this is an actual practitioner from the municipality of Haarlem who talks about how her experience in public procurement is and how she would explain public procurement to other people. So this could be a fun extra thing to add to it. And then talking about public procurement concepts, there are multiple things that then could be guiding the discussion during the lectures, which is just a very open question. What is public procurement? What is the impact of public procurement? The key differences between public and private procurement and the different development stages of public procurement. And these are all just examples that we hope helped guide other educators, but of course they're not, they're just examples. They're not mandatory to use. Then the second part is we're going from concepts to processes. So what are public procurement processes? And for this one specifically, we said it might be, could be a good thing to use academic articles for this, because there are a lot of academic articles on public procurement processes available. And we just mentioned a few of them in our report, and I also included a few of them in here, so that you have a different material compared to the first one, because that was a video and a book chapter, but in this case it's academic articles. But of course it could also be switched around. So for this one, the guiding questions could be what explain the processes, what are the different structures, what are the advantages of joint procurement if you see joint procurement as a different tactic or a different type of procurement, and what are the different types of collaborative procurement. So these are based on the articles that we have as recommended learning materials. So that's component 1 and 2. So these are more, I would say, traditional lecture style components, but components that are coming up are different types of, are less traditional, I would say. So the third component that we included is barriers and enablers. So barriers and enablers to doing public procurement. And this one specifically, we thought might be very useful to engage with practice. So to also really emphasize the career path opportunities and for students to learn from practitioners themselves. So here we gave an example of one that a colleague of ours does in his courses, which are real life case studies, or you could also call them wicked problems. So a company or public entity supplies a student group, a case that they have that is simple in a sense, but very difficult for them to figure out. So the question is simple, but the answer can be very difficult or very wicked. And then the student group tries to come up with the answer. In this case, the answer is something where the practitioners themselves don't yet have an answer on. So it's both beneficial for the students and it's beneficial for the practitioner himself, so that they can actually, and for the public entity themselves, so that they can actually integrate the answers that the students found or the solutions. So we have a few examples from the previous years on what these real life case studies could be about. So there was a municipality that had a lot of issues with getting, when they opened tenders, that they only got very big parties answering to their tenders, and they were wondering how they could reach out more to the local market parties and producers. Then on government level, there was a ministry that wanted to do an innovative tender, but needed help with that. A public contracting authority was wondering how can we procure waste circularity. So relatively simple questions, but answers that can be very diverse and very difficult. But it's something that the idea behind it is that the students actually help the public contracting authority to find answers that they themselves do not have yet. Another municipality was wondering about tender attractiveness, so very similar to the other one. They wanted to have more people responding to the tender and wanted to decrease the cost for the people who actually participated in the tender. And the last one is specifically for IT, so how can we include more sustainability criteria, especially because it's less straightforward for when you're procuring IT. So these are just some examples, but we wanted to put them in to show how it can be very helpful to connect with local authorities and to showcase students how what kind of problems they might actually be solving when they would work in public procurement. So then the fourth component that we included in this case is the future of public procurement. And for this one, again, this is something that we do in one of our courses, is we have seminar papers. So they have to write a paper, can be 2,000 words, can be 5,000 words, whichever fits best. And they choose one topic, or they're assigned to one topic, and they then try to focus on how will the future of public procurement look like in terms of sustainability, or in terms of innovation, in terms of market shaping, in terms of policy, or in terms of SMEs. So what we did here specifically is that we linked it again back to societal challenges to really emphasize how public procurement is a very important tool for that. And in our courses, what we do is we give them we give them a starting point. So some academic articles already that can then help them to start building their papers. And depending on how much time you want to spend on this and how much time you have in your whole course, this can be a short article, it can also be a presentation, it can be a longer article depending on what you would like from the students. So those are the four components, and we have one component left, and the last component is impact. So for impact is again really emphasizing what is the impact of public procurement in daily life. So a very good example of this would be guest lectures, but it can also, if you have limited availability for guest lectures or you have not built the network yet, there are also a lot of impact cases online. So these are some of the impact cases that I found on our resource bank of PROCEDIN, which is about, for one, zero emission vehicles that are being purchased from within a country, can be about building CO2 negative roads, reducing urban flood risk through public procurement, care for homeless people, reducing food waste. So all of these examples of how public procurement helps with societal challenges. But of course, it would also be very nice if they can hear from actual experiences. So that's why we said either guest lectures or impact cases. So these are the 5 components of how to include it into a public procurement course, or any of these 5 components separately could be included in a general course on procurement or a general course of supply chain management or public administration. Then that was the part about how to include it in a course, but then we also have public procurement as a potential career path. So as you probably already noticed, 2 of the things that were mentioned, so making use of impact cases and integrate real life wicked problems, those were 2 that I already mentioned in the courses, but the ones which I have focused less attention on so far are the guest lectures and what guest lectures could look like, and the thesis and internships. So these are the 2 that I want to emphasize a bit more on. So organizing guest lectures, I think I already explained most of why having better links to practice would be very beneficial, but it would be very nice if you compared it to the different components that we have, which some of them were very academia ways that this bridges the gap between academia and practice. It shows more, and the person could, the guest lecturer could really explain, okay, why is this a rewarding career path? There might be even opportunities for internships, or for at least for networking between the student and the public entity. And again, it shows the relevance of public procurement. So just a few examples of the guest lectures that we've had this year. One, for example, could be on one that we had was on innovation and socially responsible procurement in the Ministry of Defense. Another one that we had was on the construction and sector and risk management. And one was on strategic public procurement in the city of Haarlem. So 3 very different sectors with very different insights to understand more about the variety that public procurement has to offer. And then the last one, thesis and internships. So again, this is something that then would already mean that a student has to invest a lot of time into public procurement. So what we say is, okay, we first have public procurement integrated in courses. That is their introduction, so to say, to public procurement. Next step would be including guest lectures into public procurement, a smaller research project or the seminar paper that we just shared. And then the last one in terms of time investment and maturity level would be internships and traineeships, which then would be the last step into a career into public procurement. So I just wanted to give some examples of the internships and theses that we had the last year on public procurement to that can be as an inspiration to what can be done. So municipality interventions for economic recovery, so sustainable economic recovery through public procurement. Also encouragement of fair and ethical trade in the tenders, and the impact of changes of procurement practices in municipalities. So if they do a different procurement practice compared to a few years before, how does that actually change their procurement organization? So these are just 3 examples, but there are many more to think about. And specifically important here is that this is, again, another opportunity to connect the students with the workforce, but also to connect them with the local companies and local public entities that are around. So these are the things that we do within Ellipse in terms of public procurement. And we hope that these can serve as guidelines, or certain parts of it can be used in courses that you're holding. So first, again, like including it in courses, but then also at the same time, connecting with experts, connecting with practitioners, and promoting a career in public procurement. So these were the things that I wanted to highlight. One last thing is that on the website of PROCEDIN, we have different documents that can guide you. So we have our whole course structure online, but we also have advice notes for educators on how to find good internships, how to find good theses. We have the similar advice notes for students on how to get a career in public procurement, and the same one for public contracting authorities, how to get students engaged. So for all of them, it could be very useful, and they could just be used freely within your courses, or within parts of your courses. And then the same applies to our overall report on how to integrate public procurement into your courses. So that was just from my side, and from the UT side. Are there any questions, suggestions, or thoughts that people would like to share? I don't think so. So then I would like to thank you very much for your attention and for being here. and hopefully we'll see more public procurement integrated in courses. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.